Hi, welcome back to Examining Life. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Wisdom Wednesday. For those who are new, welcome to my channel. Wisdom Wednesday is a series where I choose a quote and discuss the wisdom behind the quote. And before we start, I want to thank my patrons and subscribers. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And today's quote is from Descartes' first meditation. Quote, "All that up to the present time I have accepted as most true and certain, I have learned either from the senses or through the senses. But it is sometimes proved to me that these senses are deceptive, and it is wiser not to trust entirely to anything by which we have once been deceived." End quote. So in this Descartes quote, this is where Descartes' case against empiricism begins, which leads him to rationalism. So first I'm going to define some key terms here, and then I will get into analyzing the quote. Empiricism is acquiring knowledge through sensory perception, and rationalism, according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, is another sect of epistemology, the philosophy of knowledge, where knowledge is obtained either innately or by intuition/deduction. And the two innate theories are innate knowledge, in which some truths are, quote, part of our rational nature, end quote, and innate concepts, in which some concepts, but not the truths themselves, are, quote, part of our rational nature, end quote. Deductive reasoning is when one has a conclusion or hypothesis and then finds evidence to prove said claim, whereas empiricism argues that the only source of knowledge is sensory experience. Okay, so now to analyzing the quote. Descartes says, quote, "not to trust entirely anything by which we have once been deceived." This seems to imply that the senses can somewhat be trusted, but not 100%. So what I want to know is, how much can they be trusted and how much can they not be trusted? So be skeptical of sensory perceptions and take them with a grain of salt, but perhaps at times they are trustworthy. However, I don't think that Descartes would actually agree with this, and perhaps it's a matter of translation or interpretation in the translation. What I wonder here is whether Descartes would consider differentiating perception from interpretation. Two people can perceive the same thing, but interpret it totally differently, such as music, paintings, or numerous other things. Does the fact that there are multiple interpretations mean that the perception itself is wrong? How does Descartes know with certainty that it's the senses themselves that deceive him? How does he know it's not his interpretation that is simply wrong? Can one control his or her interpretations? Is there one absolute correct interpretation of any given sensory data? Are we responsible for our sensory perceptions? For example, if we perceive something the wrong way, such as mishearing what someone says to us, are we as individuals responsible for mishearing? Or is the sense of hearing itself responsible? Should we take blame when we perceive something incorrectly? Furthermore, what is the responsibility of the communicator in ensuring that the receiver perceives such thing correctly that they are trying to communicate? For example, if the person speaking wants the receiver to perceive the words correctly, then they must speak in a language that the receiver understands, use the word which the receiver is aware of, and speak in a way that is audible. If the speaker mumbles, covers their mouth, or intentionally speaks too low for the receiver to hear, or simply states a falsehood, whether intentionally or unintentionally, then the communicator is responsible for such misperception by the receiver. Of course, not all perceptions require two or more people. I can perceive the rug on the floor as being purple and tan, even though it is blue and tan. then my perceptions truly are deceptive. If my perception of the rug is deceptive, then I should not trust the color purple when I perceive it as purple, when it is not in fact purple. However, if I am not actually aware that the rug is blue and tan, then I truly think I know that the rug is purple, even though that is false. Hence why Descartes thinks it's wiser not to trust anything that has deceived us. Okay, lastly, I want to know, where does pragmatism come in? Is it important and practical that we always trust our senses? Is it sometimes okay or acceptable to be deceived? Back to the rug example, it's not entirely important whether I accurately perceive the color of the rug correctly, or if my perceptions deceive me. However, the counter-argument is, sure, the color of the rug doesn't matter, but what if one is deceived by a perception that really does matter? So, let's say you're driving down the street and you don't see a car that's about to turn, but it is in fact about to turn and you're going straight, but you almost hit the car because you misperceived it or didn't see it or saw it but didn't realize it was there. I don't know, a bunch of different things that would cause you to almost hit this car. But in that case, it does matter that there was a misperception or your sensory perceptions didn't see that the car was there. In that case, I would say it really does matter if your senses are accurate or if they are deceptive. Understandably, holding Descartes to a pragmatic standard is unfair because pragmatism was invented about 200 years after Descartes was alive. But for our lives, given that pragmatism does play a role to some degree, what do you think is the most practical answer to the problem of whether sensory perceptions are deceptive? When should or shouldn't they be trusted? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this week's Wisdom Wednesday. Please subscribe, comment, like, and share. Stay tuned every Wednesday. Thank you. Bye.